call the regular meeting of the South Burlington School Board to order on Wednesday, August 7th at 5:59 p.m. Agenda item 2, announcements and amendments. Are there any announcements or amendments to the agenda?
Under my superintendent's report, I'd like to welcome Tim Jarvis for a quick update on the bond application.
Rick?
Under my report, sorry. So that would be item 6. Thank you.
We'll take it out that fast.
And I just want to say, I didn't see it on the agenda, but I just wanted to thank Violet for the monthly director's report that we received. It was very, very helpful.
Also,
It was-
we're
it was
gonna
great.
do that every month, and I think it's a practice that I have done as an administrator in districts, and wanted to just provide you all with information and build your knowledge base so that, you know, we can communicate best as a team to constituents. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, it answered some of my questions that I was gonna ask.
Awesome.
Based on.
Awesome.
The only thing I would ask, if you could ask people if they're using an acronym, if they
Yeah.
could fill it, say the full
Mhm.
term first and
Yeah.
then use the acronym.
Yeah,
Some of it I just didn't recognize.
Any other announcements or amendments to the agenda? All right, agenda item 3, comments from the public. Following our retreat on July 22nd, I'd like to read out the public guidelines that are now listed at the top of our agenda, followed by the usual statement of reminders to our audience. So our public comment guidelines at the top of our agenda now say, please state your legal name and town of residence. Comments should not be related to agenda items, but can be made during the discussion of an agenda item. Comments should be kept to 2 to 3 minutes. Comments should be respectful and civil. Comments should be directed to the school board chair. Comments, announcements, and concerns are encouraged over asking questions. Public comment is not a time for discussion. So this is the community's opportunity to share feedback and concerns with the board. We ask that you keep your comments concise, 2 to 3 minutes, and that you refrain from using any information that would identify a specific person. Please raise your hand in the room or use the Zoom raised hand feature. We will only use the online chat to manage any tech issues. We are not able to take action on any issues brought to us during public comment. However, any board member may suggest tonight that the issue or question be added to a future agenda item, future agenda for discussion. We may also delegate addressing issues to our superintendent, Violet Nichols, and it is always helpful if you can email us a copy of your comments for follow-up. With that said, any public comment? In the room? Anybody online? Anybody have a question on the 6? All right, seeing none, I'm going to move on to agenda item 4, focus on student learning. So we would like to welcome our new student representative, Alia Duke. And Rama Gracie Lane, if you'd like to make any comments, that'd be great.
Yeah, so we are so excited to welcome Allie as our new junior board rep. So Allie's an incoming junior and has been at SB since she was in kindergarten at Chamberlain School. Outside of school, Allie plays volleyball, is a camp counselor at Bread and Butter Farm this summer. And during our application and interview process, Rama, Elaine, and I were really impressed by Allie's advocacy work in school and in her community. She's done a bunch of climate advocacy work through Green Team and then also throughout Chittenden County. And then she's also on our school student justice. And Elaine, do you want to add anything else?
Allie, welcome,
Thank you.
and we are so excited to have you here. Just a couple of words, we were really thrilled with Allie's very direct communication style and her forthright demeanor, and she was just so direct and clear and right there, and we really appreciate that. Thank you so much, and we hope that continues through the year.
Thank you, guys. I'm really excited to have this opportunity and that you guys welcomed me in.
Welcome. Great to have you here. Looking forward to your perspective on the team throughout the year.
Thank you. We've also got a few other announcements for tonight. We'd like to take a moment to give a brief update on the District Student Leadership Committee that was started in the fall of 2023. A group of students and I began to work with Monica DeRochers to create more inclusive atmospheres throughout the SB schools community.
Since then, we have chosen to take a closer look into how race-related conversations are being conducted in classrooms, mainly at the high school level, and how we can create more in-depth, meaningful, and comprehensive discussions and atmospheres that push students to grow while maintaining a feeling of safety and inclusivity.
So if any middle or high schoolers are tuning into this meeting and are interested in this type of work, we are looking for new members for this school year. We typically meet in person once a month for about an hour and a half, usually over lunch, so there's free pizza. Work outside of meeting times is flexible and can be adjusted, based on interest or, your needs. And then please feel free to email me, at morrisg@spschools.net if you have any questions or would like to be a part of this.
Yeah, and speaking of the upcoming school year, school schedules are coming out for SBHS students on August 14th. So please check your email and Powder School portal for more information.
Until this Friday, August 9th, there will be free breakfast and lunch for children under 18 at the Tuttle, Chamberlain, and Central School cafeterias. Breakfast will be held at the middle school from 7:30 to 9 a.m. and lunch from 11 to 12:30. And then at Chamberlain and Central cafeterias, breakfast will be from 7:30 to 8:30 and lunch will be from 11:30 to 12.
Preseason for South Burlington High School athletics will be kicked off August 11th at 6 p.m. with a meet the coaches and equipment hangout for the varsity football team. And all other sports will begin preseason following that date. So good luck to athletes trying out.
And on a final note, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to the board, Superintendent Nichols, and the entire district staff for having me on as a student representative for the past 2 years. It has truly been an incredible experience that has given me insight and experience into areas that not only have helped me to grow as a student, but also as a member of my community. And while this is my last school board meeting, I hope to stay involved with the board's work and the district in the future. So thank you. That's all we have.
Thank you so much, Roma. It's been our great good fortune to have you on the board and your perspective, and I'm so proud of you. And again, you can intern here anytime.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 5, discussion items. First is Safe Routes to School update with Kate Haley. Welcome, Kate. It's nice to see you here tonight. I've invited Kate to give an update to, and context and background to the full board on Safe Routes to School. Elaine has recently joined that task force. Thank you, Elaine. And Kate was pivotal in getting this task force up and running. And I've asked her to share with the board an update as well as what the board can be doing to support the work. So I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thanks for having me, board, and I'm so excited to be here. On your first day, Allie. Welcome to the crew, and Grace, it's great to see you, Roma. I'm so glad I caught you before you went to New York. And Jean is also now a member of the Safe Routes to School Task Force and joined the last meeting, and so I will lean on her and Elaine to add any details that I forget. And I haven't prepared a formal presentation, just sort of wanted to give a little bit of context and history as to why we started the task force when I was on the board, and then what we've been up to and sort of the vision as it moves forward. So to start, I think the catalyst for the Safe Routes to Schools Task Force was really a recognition that our city center is developing rapidly, more quickly than we expected as a school district, and also the city expected. There were some changes in that timeline, and so there was some direct impact on our students and school population at Rector Marcotte. So from my perspective, there were some immediate needs. The fact that there was no school zones, and there was a process that had started at Chamberlain, and then making that a district-wide school zone process. As us veteran school board members will remember from 2023, which was last year. We had to do a lot of advocacy and a lot of conversations to make sure that we were on the same page with the city, in making sure that our students were a priority in any city development that's happening, and particularly like real basic traffic safety. So at the November steering committee meeting with city council and school board, the idea was presented to move the conversation out of just the steering committee meetings and at the government official level and have more in-depth ongoing conversations through a task force and also bring in an expert who actually knows what we're talking about when we talk about safe streets and complete streets. There are people who do this as their full-time job. And there are experts at the city level. The Department of Public Works is a great partner, but they're also aren't necessarily, they're looking at their lens is the entire city. And we want somebody who's really coming with this lens of the student and the school perspective. So that the Safe Routes to Schools Task Force is a model that's been adopted throughout the state. That Burlington has a district-wide Safe Routes to Schools Task Force that we adopted. There's some similarities and some differences. So Local Motion facilitates and coordinates our task force. They bring a lot of expertise. There's a national Safe Routes to Schools and Complete Streets model. So we're not reinventing the wheel. And they also have done some data collection in our district, in our city, in our local neighbor districts, and also statewide. So they bring a wealth of knowledge and information that I'm not presenting to you tonight. I would encourage the board, if there are specific issues, to invite Local Motion and the task force again to present on specifics. But that they bring a wealth of knowledge. And as part of the Safe Routes to Schools project, the meat of the work that we're doing is examining how students get to schools safely in alternative methods outside of driving or the bus. So that's biking, scootering, walking, rolling, many different methods that are, more climate friendly, environmentally friendly, less taxing on our bus transportation, and really there's so many emotional and physical and community benefits for having folks get to school in multiple ways. So over the summer, we've started the work of mapping out, how folks get to schools in a 1 mile or a 1.5 mile radius and identifying what the needs are and what sort of the best routes are around our different schools. This had been done on a school basis, not a district basis. Maybe in 2012-ish, the data was pretty out of date and not at all 5 schools. So South Burlington's changed a lot. So we were due for an update. The other pieces we are working on, so the Safe Routes to Schools are those 1 mile, 1.5 mile radius, mapping out the routes and then identifying what the needs are and also providing education to promote the best routes. The other projects of our task force include a pilot project of a specific route that I sent Violet you a link that if you want to share the screen, and I just looked up and saw myself and I'm very distracted.
Yes, we have a new technology.
Beautiful.
which
I
is
love
this
the owl, very pro
adorable
owl.
little owl, and
Yes.
it's aimed at just our continued process on how to improve our hybrid meeting settings. So
5 stars.
I'm
Would
glad
not
you're
notice
enjoying it.
that at all until just now.
I should have given you all the heads up, but
Oh, yeah.
do you see why it's called the owl with
Yeah.
the camera?
Very cute.
Hey, Nick, let's see here.
So what I'm asking Violet to pull up is a map of a route that will funnel folks to the high school and middle school campus. That there's gonna be some specific data tracking to see how that route works out, and also education about the specific route. And there's some tools that Local Motion uses and the city to highlight the route, both for drivers to say hey, this is a route before and after school that kids are going to be traveling, and for kids and staff who are going to schools to say, hey, you could walk on this other street that may be more dangerous and busy, or you could take this route that is really designed for you. So at the very bottom, there's that map. Yeah. And I'll read out what the map is. So part of my agenda for tonight is just sharing this map and promoting that there'll be a 6-week window of this pilot project is partnered with the City Bike Ped Committee. And we're gonna be promoting this route with all sorts of fun things. So I want you guys to know about this project. And ask me any questions that I can answer or I can bring back to the task force or Elaine and Jean and I. And this could be a model that we replicate in other places too. So the route is starts at the northern end of Elsom Parkway at Wilson Road, heads south through the woods at the end of the street to Prouty. The route crosses Heinsberg Road at the crosswalk at the end of Prouty, heads north for a short distance before turning west on Sunset Avenue. At the end of Sunset, a left onto Birch and puts you in a small gravel path that leads to O'Brien Drive. From there, the route follows O'Brien to Barrett Street into the back entrance of the schools. So this is an example of a very specific route that we want to highlight to help folks get to school safely and promote so that folks in the neighborhood, are aware of it and can promote it and the kids can travel safely. And also if there's, infrastructure needs or changes that need to be modified, maybe a path that's not gravel needs to add gravel, maybe there's a crosswalk that's needed, that type of thing. So that's part 2. Part 3, I'll share really quickly and then I'll take any questions if you have any. Part 3 is back to the catalyst of how we got here, why we have a Safe Routes to School task force. And I'm gonna share this as a neighbor and an advocate and somebody who doesn't have students in the school district, but feels really strongly that our city should be prioritizing our students and our children and our families before anything else when it comes to development. And there's been a lot of development at City Center and Rick Marcotte's been there for quite some time. And the intersection of Market Street and the driveway to the school, which is yet to be named by the Rick Marcotte students, but I'm on the edge of my seat. That intersection, what in my opinion, was not designed with the school in mind. And now we are reacting to a place where it's not safe for drivers, it's not safe for walkers, and we are often looking at a very dangerous situation for and after school every day. So we tried crossing guards, what's best practice for crossing guards. What I've learned from this task force is that crossing guards are meant to help pedestrians cross streets safely. What we need and what we have had versions of at the Marcotte Street, the Market Street Marcotte intersection is traffic monitoring, which is not prioritizing or not guiding pedestrians, but guiding traffic in cars through the intersection. And this is incredibly important because before the advocacy of the school board, there was not a 4-way stop. So cars were just flying by on Market Street. And the intersection, it was developed in a way that has bump outs for pedestrian traffic, which is a benefit, but is too tight for school buses. So the school buses have to swing out into the intersection so far that disrupts the cars and makes it very unsafe for anybody in the intersection when you're in a car or walking or biking or rolling. And even with the buses out of the equation, it's a very tight intersection that is just not designed with young students and families and high traffic during very specific times of day in mind. And so to me, that is like an acute problem that we need to address, and the task force is one way to get clear ongoing information and data and make decisions and recommendations. And also hopefully to prevent other problems like the Market Street intersection as our city changes and develops over time. So that is my different school soapbox, and I will happily take questions if you have any, or any comments or feedback we can take back to the task force.
Thank you, Kate. That I feel like this board needed that, like, there's just been some change since the task force was formed, and I just wanted everyone here to get the full context, so thank you. I think that was really helpful. Do board members have questions for Kate or Jean Marie or Elaine? Kate?
Just a comment and a question. I just want to reiterate how tight that intersection is over there. And I'm surprised that no forethought was given to the fact that there would be school buses pulling in over there. So it really goes to speak to the fact that I believe you're spot on with, we need to be involved up front to address that kind of stuff, because I can't imagine trying to pick up kids and stuff there when there are 100 cars trying to get in and the buses, and you've got kids walking back and forth. So it definitely had surprised me. Hit the nail on the head. One question I did have, Violet, I'm not sure, how are we providing information to parents about these safe routes? Is that go out in your newsletter, or is there a packet?
Yeah, so I have been providing safe routes to school updates in my newsletter, and I have one that we're working on for tomorrow, which is gonna be my back to school newsletter. And I'm gonna continue to keep folks posted. On Monday night, the council had some discussion, which was really supportive, I thought. I'll, you know, let Elaine add color to this, but I was really pleased that the council requested of the city manager to complete a traffic study. One of the things that, you know, I've been bringing to the city most recently is my concerns over the traffic that we have not yet even experienced, and that several new buildings are going to be opening this coming school year. So the amount of traffic is going to be massive. So we're trying to work in partnership with the city on this in a few different ways. One is through collaborative meetings with the city, with Jean Marie, and Tim is probably going to tag out sometime, but they're fascinating meetings, so he keeps coming back. And we're trying to look at bus routes so that we can help alleviate traffic congestion around there. But one of the main points I brought to our last Green Mountain Transit City School meeting was really this idea that the school contributes to a significant amount of traffic and blockage because of the inability of the buses to traverse the turn of Market and School. And then even the corner on school property abutting the parking lot behind City Center. And, you know, so I've requested that, you know, the parking spots that have been blocked off, lining both the left and the right sides of School Street, which is owned by the city, remain vacant, so that there's a greater ability for traffic to move two ways. We know that if we're blocking traffic on a school at you know, dismissal and arrival times, that we're contributing to a significant amount of traffic on Market Street. So it really is, you know, a benefit of the community to have some modifications. We also talked about a suggestion to have traffic move in through School Street, and I'm doing really well because I know the proposed name and I've not let the cat out of the bag yet. So I hope I don't have a Freudian slip here. But so the traffic, one suggestion that has come to our mind, just based on the staff who has seen this in action enough times, is for traffic to enter on School Street off of Market and then exit in another way. And so Mary Street is a possibility that was discussed Monday night. City Manager Baker offered to support a conversation between the district and Allard Square, who have ownership over that. So the actionable space of the city is on School Street right there with those parking spots. However, they do not have control over Mary Street. You know, an additional suggestion I made that the council decided to move forward with, so I'll be curious to see a timeline on this, is a traffic study. And, you know, we have information that we're gonna have a significant number of units opening up. What is that gonna do to traffic? We know that many of the folks in those new residencies are going to be going to the hill side of town. So, you know, we're gonna work on that from a GMT perspective.
What's the
It's the hillside, the UVM, sites in particular.
She's saying that tenants there will be commuting to UVM. Yeah, up the hill.
So, you know, those are some factors, so I'll be, you know, curious to see what the timetable, the timeline is on that, traffic study. You know, given that school is opening soon and we've got massive buildings opening, I'm, you know, hopeful that this can move forward quickly and really am grateful for the support of the council on that. Really appreciate, also that they, approved a traffic monitor, not crossing guard, an actual traffic monitor with, training support was my understanding. So extremely grateful to the council for that. I haven't heard pieces yet, regarding the details of how and when, and who's advertising for that, but I'll certainly follow up with, the city manager on that. And again, just really want to thank, Kate and Elaine and Jean Marie and also Principal McDonald for their, work on this. I think back to, a year ago when we were having conversations about school zones, and Kate and I said to each other, a year from now, we're going to be in our school zones. And so, I just really want to acknowledge the tremendous community effort that has made that come to fruition. And, I think it's a huge step in the right direction. Huge thank you to you, Kate, for making that possible and for your continued work on the task force. I think it's an excellent example of city-school partnership, and, the community engagement piece on this is fantastic. So many thanks. I'm gonna include this link in my newsletter tomorrow. And shoot me any other, I think I have the highlights, but, email me anytime if there's anything. And of course, Elaine and Jean Marie, same goes for you. But I will be putting these updates in my newsletter bi-weekly. I'm gonna switch to bi-weekly newsletters based on some feedback from parents and guardians. So.
If I can just add one closing thought, one thing that's been really helpful, especially as once we solve Market Street and we can spend a little more time thinking about Dorset Street and then Shelburne Road, I have a whole plan. Don't tell the city because I told them it was only a year. So when we get the results, we had traffic studies to inform the school zones. And it felt like I, as a school board member, was at a disadvantage coming to the table with the city because I've never read a traffic study before. And so the benefit of having the task force and the support of local motion is that these folks really understand traffic studies and they know what to look for. And they are also, they bring a lot of expertise that I found really valuable when we get the results of traffic studies and there's development and change. And the other thing I want to say is that the city, when we, like the bike ped committee and folks that work in the city have tried to do more sort of like climate action initiatives and bike ped friendly initiatives with the schools in the district. They were saying that they just needed an in. They were trying to find an in so that we could work more closely together. And I truly believe that there's a lot of allies on both sides here. And so the task force, as much as possible, is a great place. And I think the city's done a really great job of stepping up and coming to the table. And so I just want to plug that, like, we would love to have more student involvement and staff involvement. And, if there are folks that are biking or walking to school and they want to be able to share their perspective or even just like learn more, then this is absolutely a place where that voice is welcome and will be really valuable and I think could make a big impact and make change.
I'm gonna put that in my newsletter too. Student community voices welcome.
Yeah, so no pressure, Ally, but this is, last one. Okay, thank you.
I think my question for you is, sometimes I'm still thinking about these issues as the board member who didn't have this task force. And so the things that I would be thinking about needing to do to support this work aren't the same because we have the task force now. So how, from your view, what can the board do to support the task force's work? Like, and maybe right now there's nothing specific, but I just want to make sure that you have. I hope that you can email me anytime, but that the board is aware of how we can best support the task force and the things that we can do to make sure that this keeps going as well as it is. Anything specific or if nothing specific, just know, please email us anytime so we can support the work.
Yeah, thank you. I think, helping be that bridge into, our school community and our families. So that when there's an opportunity for voices to be heard and to play influence into what happens at Market Street, what happens at Dorset Street. Just amplifying that message, because I do think that the task force is a place where like you can really make an impact in a meeting. You're making recommendations that are gonna make a big impact, so.
Such as the OP article focus that the board is discussing, or, you know, good use for front porch forum posts when there
Yeah.
are meetings.
Yeah, and but even into like your newsletter or through our principals to say like, are there students who want to share their voice or parents? Because I think this is a way to amplify the parent and family and student voice too.
There are two things I want to add. First of all, Suzanne, our new principal of HTMS, has been at every meeting the past 3 or 4 times and is wonderful, and it's instrumental to have a representation there. Second, I really, I know the value of traffic studies, but I really want us to sit on the city, so this gets done in a very timely fashion. Studies can attenuate. We don't want this to attenuate. It has to happen ASAP.
You hit the point. Studies are a good way of punting difficult problems. Love studies, you need them to implement, but budgets is where your values are. The local option tax, is that something that's eligible for safe route use? I know it's been used more like recreational, and I would love to see that money more for safety enhancements on school routes, and it's kind of like a dedicated funding source.
Yeah, so we have been working hard this summer, and thank you for this question. We've been working hard this summer so that we have a lot of plans and routes identified to set us up well for that budget conversation this fall. But we as the school community and Safe Routes to Schools Task Force are competing with the other interests of like that's where the cooperation becomes shakes up, because the Bike Ped Committee is doing this master planning and there's active transportation planning. And I think that effort is all really important. And there is some prioritization of like what feeds into our schools that can get a, gold star. But I think we really need to be clear that like, just starring it isn't enough. It needs to be top of the list. And we need to know what those asks are so that we can say very specifically, this needs to be top of the list.
And they're including you in master planning discussions.
I would say that the task force is a way for the schools to be more involved in that process, but it's still happening on its own, separate. It's a city operation, and so I think that's a place where, as a board member, you should ask specifically, like, where's the school interest here? How are you highlighting the needs of our students and our young people?
It just addresses that, the catalyst that you brought up at the beginning of, you see these things going up the most comprehensive plan done. Kids say, awesome, thank you for your work.
Okay. If you don't mind staying, I am just gonna ask if there's any public comment on this
Yes.
issue before we move on to the next agenda item. All right, thank you, Kate.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Kate.
Good to see you.
All right, next we have discussion of a finance committee. So the board recently discussed at our retreat the idea of forming a finance committee. Ron, you're leaving just at the wrong time.
No.
Well, no, it's not wrong for you. That's just a joke. I hope you know. The purpose of the committee is to share information, educate the community, advocate with legislators, and provide community feedback sessions about the budget. We discussed appointing Chris Trombley as chair of this committee and Tim Warren as vice chair. With this, I'd like to thank you, Chris, for all of your work so far to get the application up and running, as well as Julia. I believe Julia, our communications coordinator, has been very helpful too. And I'll turn it over to you to kind of share anything at this point that you feel the community needs to know.
Well, I'm catching up from the retreat, but it sounds like it was well received and, I think using the word, catalyst that was previously used was, the work that went into getting FY 24 across. FY 25 passed was a heavy lift, and FY 26 will prove to be could be as challenging with the headwinds coming from CLA adjustments and just benefits, and so trying to start a timeline of community engagement earlier, and the core value would be community is involved on the forefront. The applications help. I'm really looking forward to this and having those discussions as a community and really gather input, share information, and also be able to share that input that we've received with Violet's team, with the board, and I haven't heard of an instance where less communication was good. So this is I think it's just important to call it. We're trying to be a little different than years past, where we're really striving to have a breadth of voices from different parts of the community. Budgets touch different areas of the community, and we just want to have everyone have a voice in that conversation and be able to feel like that input was heard, and also share that information with folks who maybe they haven't engaged in these conversations before. So that's kind of the vision of it. I think that's consistent with what we preliminary talked about.
Elaine, do you have a question?
Refresh my memory on when applications need to be returned and all of that, because I'm a little fuzzy on timing.
Chris, do you want to do that, or would you like me to do that?
Well, I think originally I was kind of hoping we would start sooner, much sooner, just because conversations are already happening, and the next thing you know, school season starts up, and you look up and it's already October. So the sooner that we can have somebody selected, the better. But it was, I think the group had come back at August 30th was
I guess
the
that
timeframe.
would be an update from the retreat, that the consensus of the board at the time was that we needed more time to get the message out there and give folks the opportunity to apply. Because while I appreciate and understand trying to get this formed as quickly as possible, we could miss out on some really good members if they don't have the time to hear about it, find out what it is, figure out how to apply, and then allow us to continue with that process. So yeah, that's the only substantive change for sure.
So we're looking at having applications returned on 30th or
By the
starting
30th.
on 30th?
Application deadline Friday, August 30th at noon.
I have a question. Are students able to apply for this position? To be on the committee?
I would hope so. I didn't hear anybody say no.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it would be really awesome if there were some student voices in there, and also just students being able to relay information back to other students at school. So,
Yes, that's awesome. In its creation, this committee is intended to be 7 to 9 members. So, and we're trying to have a lens for including as many different perspectives as possible. So certainly there's space for student voice. I'm not sure if it would be more than one, but
Can I ask what like the task of the committee is? Like what exactly would the purpose be?
do you want to feel better?
Yeah, so so that was one of my first questions. So what's our deliverable here? What's the output here? First is education. We're advocating, so community education, advocating to also the legislature as we go through this process. the changes to the funding formula, in the middle of a, budget development process was disruptive. And so just, providing some feedback, an opportunity for feedback opportunities from community members. Share all of that information back to, the school board and to Mylan. So it's really a two-way, receiving and sending out information. So we didn't really formulate this will be the final report. It'll be more of a ongoing feedback. And how Mylan chooses to implement that information. But we'll be giving that information and updates to the board, I imagine, figure out.
So like a supplementary voice during the budget making process.
Absolutely, and that committee will be educated, so they will receive information from the district on the budget development process, the state factors, the education funding factor, and sort of Tim Jarvis is gonna be the staff liaison to the committee to provide financials. I think when we ask for feedback, it's important to share context first. So, the initial stages of the committee's sessions is going to be engaging in shared learning together about the current state of affairs in the district, the education funding formula, and then on that, significant engagement pieces and recommendations on the budget development process. And then once that, so I see it in three phases. So that would be 1 and 2. And then the third one is once the budget has been developed, for folks in this committee to reach out to those in their communities to amplify sharing of information that's important for all community members to have. So it's really a widening of the net for giving, receiving information and sharing with the community. And the advocacy piece cannot be understated. Every district is impacted by the education funding formula changes differently. And, I did a fair amount of advocating this past budget season, and to hear from students and community members and educators is also really powerful and an important piece of that conversation. So our hope is to really just expand the engagement around the budget. And, the headwinds that Chris started to expand upon a bit are pretty significant this year. We've got rising increase in health costs that those are negotiated at a statewide level. Got no control over those. We have, 2 of our union groups are negotiating this year. And we know that we're going to get a 20% less for that modification from equalized pupil to the long-term weighted daily membership. So
We don't have any surplus funds.
we do not have 2 fiscal years of surplus funds to allocate. So we've really got to get creative about maintaining the high quality of programming that our students and our staff deserve in a way that our community can support. So the engagement in this community is something that, I was with Chris, I was like, how soon can we start this? I'm like, how does July 1st sound, right? Also want to thank all those who reached out and said, hey, how can I be a part of the budget process? So really want to encourage folks to do this. I'm going to have information about how to apply in my newsletter tomorrow for folks so you can check that out. It's also on Front Porch Forum. And reach out to Mr. Trombley if you've got any questions, comments, wonderings. We received 2 applications so far. And I'm hopeful that we'll get a lot more engagement after this conversation here this evening, for instance.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
One thing that I was thinking about is, so many of the factors were changing mid-budget season last year that we even had, news sources reporting incorrect information, and not maliciously, it's just their information was out of date. And that was creating a lot of confusion in our community as well. So I think partially the hope too is that this committee will be a place that community members can reach out to for the most up-to-date, real-time information to inform themselves with. And it's another opportunity for community members to provide feedback, not to reiterate, but I think this is a really important piece to provide feedback at a more neighborly conversation that will then come to the board. Because I just think the more opportunities for the for our community to engage, the better. Not everyone has the time or interest to come speak before the board about their questions or concerns. So hopefully this committee will be another opportunity for more community to engage. Okay, any more board discussion about this committee? Any public comment? What should our next steps in terms of, I guess, our August 21st, we would just highlight it maybe in the announcements, or is there something we should do with August 21st for this?
August 21st, hopefully we'll have a better idea if we have enough memberships. We'll have a kind of a rough outline of maybe some scheduling and some communication that we'll have to discuss as a plan. But there's no action.
Yeah, sure.
I'm hearing full speed ahead.
Yeah, maybe what I'll do is just make sure when we do agenda planning that we make sure we've addressed this. Okay. All right, so next is agenda item 6, superintendent's report. Violet, I will ask you to report as superintendent.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just pulling up the draft agenda first. I wanted to just see if that was already on for finance committee is item number 5 on the draft agenda for the 21st. So we can check that off the list. Yeah, so thank you so much. Hiring season, you know, is in full swing. We have, I think we're faring really well and have been grateful for the significant number of positions that are filled. As I think a lot about our neighbors, we're in such a good position, and I want to thank all of those who have been working hard to, you know, hire great staff to be welcomed into our school community and support our students and their colleagues. I will also share that Assistant Principal John Craig has been moved into the acting principal position for first semester, while Principal Burke is on medical leave. Our curriculum area supervisor, Mary Ellen Schaefer, which is a curriculum area supervisor, is similar to a department head model. Mary Ellen is going to be joining the administrative team as acting assistant principal, and her expertise in instructional leadership are going to really benefit that team. She's been at the high school for a very long time and has well-established relationships and understands the work that needs to be done. So that'll be she'll be joining the team to support there, in addition to carrying on with 51% of her teacher contract. So happy to have her in that role and appreciative of both of them. And Meg Hughart is our new AP, as you all know, at the high school. She's stepping in from the director of school counseling role into the assistant principal role. And you know, many of you have heard me say that school counselors make excellent assistant principals, and they really do, because of their, you know, focus on students and relationships and families. So feeling really good about the support plan that we have in place to maintain consistency and stability, and wanted to share that with you this evening. And with that, I'm going to welcome Tim Jarvis to provide a brief update on the bond, wanting to make sure that we share information about the interest rate, as was discussed in the resolution that we read in our previous board meeting. So that's been finalized, and Tim will share that detail with you now.
Can I ask one question on the hiring before we move on? Just out of curiosity, for those open positions where we're accepting applicants, are we getting enough applicants, do you feel, or is there sort of a dearth of applicants? Just out of curiosity.
You know, it's a great question. I want to get some figures from our human resources department. My sense is that, as with every year, there's ebbs and flows in where the vacancies are and are not. I don't know if you've heard, we have pretty significant vacancies in our transportation department.
I've heard that.
So you'll get that report just after Tim speaks from Jean Marie, but from the district level, we're really looking for bus drivers and bus aides. We've got, some vacancies district-wide, I would say, in special education is a, an area where there's been consistent need the past couple of years, in particular. And our Schools Out program is really in need of great staff as well. So those are, I think, the top 3 areas as far as priorities. Schools Out can't be, I can't understate the importance of staffing those roles. People like me and many of us rely on programs like Schools Out so that we can, perform our work. And we've got waiting lists for Schools Out, so staffing for those important programs is really critical. And, honestly, we'd love to be able to expand them should staffing allow. So those are the top 3 areas, but I'll ask for, I'll see if our HR department can give me a, kind of a status update on more specifics as we get closer to school.
Thank you.
Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be back. Can I just say before I start on the bond stuff, welcome Alan. Welcome back, Gracie. And I claim first dibs and exclusive dibs on Ramla when she comes back to intern for us.
Already granted.
If there's any dispute, we'll just roll the tape, as they said.
Unless she wants to be a superintendent, and then you and I will have that further discussion about the matters.
That I concede to a discussion.
Fair enough. Agreed.
So I'm just gonna spend a couple of minutes. You'll recall at the May 15th meeting, the board approved us to submit an application with the Vermont Bond Bank for the remaining $5.55 million of the $14.55 million that was approved by the voters in March of 2023. We just got the pricing for that yesterday, and I thought this was timely to give you an update on how this turned out. So we didn't know until yesterday exactly what the interest rate was going to be. And for people who are not familiar, I won't go into a lot of detail, but twice a year, the Vermont Bond Bank creates a pool of funding for schools and municipalities across the state. That's the reason they exist, is to be able to pool this bond requirement together and sell it to the investment bankers at a more competitive rate than you would get trying to get a 30-year mortgage on your house. So, with those 30-year mortgages on your house still over 7%, I was getting a little nervous about what is this interest rate going to be for the bond. And to show you the power of pooling, we found out yesterday the interest rate, the coupon is going to be 3.968% for a 20-year term. This will give us the opportunity to draw down the remaining 5.5 million. And the reason why we staggered it, if some of you will remember that, we knew we needed the money to build the ZEMS, and then we used 3 million of the rest of it, mostly this summer. We put on roofs, we put on heat pumps to Orchard and Rick Markov, so they'll have air conditioning for the first time in their 60-year history. And did a number of other projects, but the laundry list of projects remaining on the facility stewardship plan requires this additional draw of funds. So I just want to give you that update of what the coupon is going to be, and certainly entertain any questions.
It's good news, right?
That's good.
Great news.
Fantastic.
It's good news. Thank you so much, Tim.
Okay,
Appreciate you providing that this evening. And can I welcome Jean Marie since this is my agenda item, I was taking the liberty here. Jean Marie, welcome. Jean Marie is our operations director, taking the operational pieces, such as transportation off of Tim's plate, and has been an awesome member of the team. Really enjoyed working with Jean Marie so far. She's absolutely hit the ground running. And, I said to her when we're having conversations about hiring, like, transportation is going to be your #1 priority. We know this is with the greatest needs of our community and our parents and our students, a huge issue of equity, and Jean Marie has just dug right in. And can I also share that you have experience as a board member?
Yeah, I was going to, but please.
Yeah, well, I could gush all day, but I want to welcome Jean Marie. Today she's gonna provide the board and the community an update on our transportation department so that folks can, you know, have a clear idea of where we're at now. And of course, we'll continue to provide updates. But Jean Marie was kind enough to come here in person and wanted to be here too, so that you all too could put a face with the name. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, I've said, this is the first time I've sat on this side of the table. I've sat on that side of the table. I was I was the board chair and on the board for the Franklin Northeast Supervisory Union for about a decade. Until my family and I moved in 2001. So I have so much respect for all of you and really just want to send my appreciation for the time and effort that it takes for you to be on the school board. I remember when I was asked to be on the school board, and I think that you'll find this amusing as well. I said to my folks that didn't live far from me, I said, oh, they asked me to be on the school board and it's just one night a month, it's one meeting a month. And my dad just laughed and laughed at me. I was like, it's gonna be fine. And yeah, it's more than one meeting a month. So thank you for your time and efforts, because I know that it is can be very much a thankless job. So just a little bit of background about me. I spent the last 22 years working for the Vermont State Colleges and managed the Williston campus for many, many years. The last couple of years, I also managed the Randolph campus as they went through the merger into the Vermont State University. So was there for a really long time and was really comfortable there. And was nervous coming here, but I have to say that the team here at the district office and those that I'm beginning to meet in all the school buildings have just been fantastic. Like, it's such a great group of folks. So I wholeheartedly think that I landed at the right spot. So for those of you that said, maybe we should cut the director of operations position from the budget, thank you for not doing that. I'm really happy to be here. So yes, my number one goal is to try to clean up transportation for us. I really wish that I could be here with all kinds of great news. I don't have all kinds of great news. I have all kinds of news. First, I'll tell you that you approved a transportation dispatcher position just before I joined the district. And we have hired that person and she's recently started in that position. She's going to be really our point person as the main point of contact for all things transportation. So her name is Stephanie Hyatt, and she will, I think, be very gracious in answering all of those angry parent phone calls that I'm going to work really hard that those become a much smaller part of her job. So Steph will be the number one point of contact for folks having issues or trying to find buses and that sort of thing. So I'm excited to have her in that position. So that's a new member of the transportation team, new support there, which I think is great. Some things that we're doing to get us some more drivers. So one of the things that I did shortly after I arrived was our HR team graciously gave me a list of all of the folks who've like almost ever applied to be a bus driver here, and I called them all. And I had one person who was like, great, I'll be a bus driver for you. And he recently said, actually, this isn't the right thing for me. So I was really stoked to have a new person on the team. And unfortunately that didn't work out for him. But we have done a few other things. I should let you know also that we have 2 bus drivers that have retired at the end of the last school year. 2 bus drivers have retired. One bus driver left the organization about a month or so ago at some point this summer. So we're actually almost in a worse position right now than we were at the end of the school year, which is a terrible place to be. The good news is that we're really trying to do some things to add more members to the team. So one of the things that we have already instated is an employee referral program. So if I would say Violet or myself, but really this doesn't apply to us. If a school teacher recommends a person who applies for a bus driver position, there are 3 different categories in that referral program, but the person who does that referring after the new employee's been with us for 3 months, we get a $1,000 bonus awarded to them. So that's big money. Like, that's worth looking in your friend group to find somebody. So I know that there are folks that are really beginning to rack their brains and think about, well, who do I know who is a bus driver or would like to become a bus driver to add to the team? So that's the first thing that we're doing. The second thing that I have done is actually Tim and I have been reaching out to some other transportation companies to help support the organization. So we reached out to a couple different organizations. One sort of fell off the map, but the one that we're working with right now is a company you may be familiar with called First Student. So we've asked to partner with them to have them potentially offer some drivers to us that would drive our buses and take care of those routes for us. So use our equipment with their employees. I was really hoping I would hear from them, before 6 o'clock today, and I haven't. But they are working on it, and I'm hopeful that something is going to happen there. I don't know that that's going to fill the void completely, but I'm hoping that they work with, I think, the Harwood Union district, and so they're hopeful that maybe there's some folks in that area that can help support us. So that's good news. I also will tell you that we hired 2 new bus monitors for the bus garage. So bus monitor is another adult that's on the bus to help students, remain respectful while they're on the bus, but also support all of our students with different needs that need attention, like getting into their seat and on and off the bus and so forth. So 2 new employees, those positions have been posted for a while. So I'm excited to have some new folks joining the team for that, because what that means is prior to us hiring these bus monitors, Kathy LaRock, who likely you all know as a transportation supervisor, was filling that role as a bus monitor. So that meant she's not able to answer the phone, not able to support the drivers and the routes and all of the other pieces of that puzzle, but she's on the bus, being another adult on the bus. So I'm excited to have those folks join the team, and they are actually really excited to be on the team. So that's another piece of good news. We're also really trying to market the heck out of the fact that we have bus driver positions open here, bus drivers in particular. So there are some Instagram ads, some social media ads that are going out. And there are, you'll get to see my smiling face on the local news over the next couple days, because I'm going to be interviewed by NBC5 tomorrow and WCAX on Friday. We're also creating a TV commercial with Violet and with some of our bus drivers. So that's a piece of good news. And then the bus banner. So we are in the process of ordering like a ginormous bus banner. And my idea is that we're going to park it over here on the corner of Dorset Street in the edge of the parking lot, sort of facing that busy intersection, with a giant banner on the side that says, paid training, please join the transportation, or call me with my phone number. So if the next time I'm here, it's because, oh my God, I'm quitting because my phone won't stop ringing, that'll be good news, right? So that's Violet's idea. My idea is just to park it over there. So that's good. There are some bits of good news there. And I spent some time at the Orchard School today. I'm still getting them all situated in my brain. I spent some time at the Orchard School today with some of the staff there and just talked about some of the things that we're doing. And I think things might not be great at the beginning of the school year, but I'm really hopeful that things are going to be better, so that, by Thanksgiving or maybe by Halloween, we'll be in a much better position than we are now. So I don't have great news, but I feel like we have some good things going on. I just wanted to Violet and Kate stole my thunder as we were talking about the safe routes to school. I'm really excited that we have made it feels like some good movement in the right direction on coming around on the Rick Marcotte Market Street intersection, because it's just incredibly dangerous. And I haven't been here long enough to really truly understand that, but that city council meeting, I just want to big kudos to the council members that are on the Safe Routes to School committee with us, because they really have stood up and said, like, this is a problem that we need to fix. And on Monday, it really felt like they were, sort of falling on their sword to say, like, this is wrong and we have to fix this. So I agree with you, Elaine, that like I'm excited about the traffic study because I feel like people smarter than me can say what some great ideas are to fix this, to solve this problem. But also, I hope it isn't a 10-year study, right? So I'm really grateful to the city for stepping up and being really willing to make some changes there before things get worse. And I also want to, send some thanks out to, there were some community members that I joined that meeting virtually on Monday. There were some community members in the audience, and one woman in particular who really stood up and said, I work in Burlington, and how we interact with pedestrians in Burlington is much different. It's more respectful, like they see someone standing on the side of the road and people stop and wait. I think some of that may be to the fact that there is a giant university with like 15,000 students walking around there, but additionally, what she said is it's not like that in South Burlington. That's not the culture in South Burlington. And I think I shared with Violet and Tim, I crossed Dorset Street to just get a few steps in on a sunny day earlier this summer. I hit the crosswalk button. No one even slowed down, much less stopped. And I finally was able to cross, and I thought, must be the lights didn't work. And so I, went for a walk, and I came back and I hit the button again and specifically looked up, and yep, the lights work fine, but still nobody stopped for me. So I think we have to work towards a culture shift in this community to make it a safer town for our students and our family and our community members to walk around in. I think that's all that I have to share this evening. Did I leave anything out, Violet?
No, I really appreciate your work on the partnerships, talking about the Safe Routes to School and Market Street intersection, and advertising, and for you sharing the staffing, status, which is great.
Yeah.
And, this is a real push for us right now. If anyone wants to have any more information about transportation or becoming a bus driver, you can email Jean Marie at jclark@sbschools.net, or you can call her at 862-7056. 7056. That's confusing because your last 4 digits are similar to my number in different orders. We're off by one on our extensions. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you. This is just so fantastic. When I was on the school board, we did not have this kind of student participation, and I just think this is amazing. So they're not here just to fill a chair, like they're really invested in this, and that's super exciting. So thank you for your time to be involved so much.
Just a question.
Sure, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to go back.
As I just run to my chair, sorry.
You can't get away with that. Going back to, you mentioned a group that were supposed to call you by 6 PM. You were looking at using some
Yes,
of their folks.
yes.
My question on that, just so I understand, is what does the compensation look like for that? Because it doesn't sound
We
like
haven't
they
got
would be
that
hired.
far.
Okay. So
Yeah, we
that's
haven't got
TBD.
that far. With the first company that I was in conversations with, the price did not seem outrageous at all. I was really concerned about what that price would be, and it was not outrageous at all in compared to what we're paying our drivers hourly. So we haven't gotten that far exactly with the first student folks. I think it's gonna be, I think it's going to be hopefully pretty palatable for us to take them up on it. And even, one of the things that we did clarify with them is, okay, let's say you give me 4, 5, 6 drivers on August 15th to get us started. What's our commitment look like? So if on October 15th, I suddenly have a whole bunch of already certified drivers that want to join the organization, are we on the hook for some longer length of time? And no, we would not be. That isn't how that works. So, universally, it stinks that South Burlington is in this position, but we're not the only ones. I mean, it's just a really universal problem. So Not that we don't want to try to fix it, but we're not alone, at least. So,
Sure, and I only ask because it's something I hadn't thought of before, the fact that we're trying to hire full-time, but if there are people who could come in temporarily.
Yeah,
And we probably discussed that before, but it's slipped my mind, I think, just, you know, how that would work, and as we go
Yeah.
into the BOCES discussions going forward.
Yeah.
Is that also a resource we might?
Interesting. So my understanding BOCES applies to curricular pieces, you know, like, but I absolutely see regional partnerships here. Tim and I did look at partnerships last year, like Betcha, as we think about BOCES, you know, they serve 3 Addison County districts, for instance. But I think it's 3 separate contracts and not one, but it is really getting at that collaborative, you know, idea. Yeah, Tim and I looked into this last year. We reached out from everyone to private coach services to, you know, districts who are currently outsourcing, like Betcha is one that we reached out to. And what we heard is, you know, everything is booked and everything is levied, and even like GMT is struggling to hire and retrain drivers because of the shortage. So it's kind of like we're at the deli and we've taken our number, and if we happen to be up for a student, it would be our lucky day.
yeah.
Because we've been in this line for a long time, you know, so and again, I want to be clear too, that this would be to support our drivers, our staff and our drivers are a priority for us, and that this would be supplementary to support our community and getting our students to school. But as Jean Marie said, that this could be, if when we are fully staffed.
That's right.
I mean, that's the hope, but, you know, given the trends locally and statewide and nationally, that's not been something that's happening. But if we were fully staffed, we wouldn't be on the hook for drivers from our first student.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Any
so
other
much.
questions?
It's exciting to see the level of energy put into this topic.
I've never been this excited about bus drivers before, honestly, so. When Tim and I were meeting and he said like transportation is gonna be your #1 gig, I was like, okay, that's great, but like I know 0 about transportation. He said, it's fine, no one does. So I have learned a lot, and I'm learning a lot, and I just have so much respect for the drivers that are doing that work and the whole team. So we'll get there. We definitely have some changing and some cleaning up to do and some better practices to work on and processes and so forth, but we'll get there. So, yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for being here.
Sure, Ben.
Take an enchilada and head home. That concludes my report. Thank you, Violet. Thanks.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Can you open it up to the public?
So our new guidelines are, we're trying to encourage comments or concerns over questions, because public comment's not a time for discussion.
Okay.
And so, if you could email your question to Violet, and then
Okay.
she can put it in her update. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Agenda item 7, action items. So our first agenda item here is a side letter with the South Burlington Educators Association Educational Support Professional Unit, which is the union that includes bus drivers, regarding school bus drivers. The board has had some discussions in executive session about this matter, but before we take action, Violet, could you provide some context around what this side letter is about?
Sure, thanks, Chelsea. So the board and our community have identified bus drivers and the shortage in our quite frankly, inability to get students to and from school consistently as our greatest operational need. This is also, again, speaking to the figures here, this is also our greatest area of shortage from a staffing perspective, category with the highest number of open requisitions. Again, we know that this is a trend that is consistent in our county, in our state, and the country. We have really tried to alleviate transportation from all the levers possible, from partnerships with companies such as First Light, through our partnership with the city and Local Motion, through Safe Routes to School, through partnership with the city with the implementation of school zones, really trying to increase alternate ways of getting to and from school, walking, biking, rolling. And we are also trying to address significant equity issues. We have students who are far more greatly impacted and families who are more impacted than others. When, you know, some families have a bus canceled or as part of a rolling cancellation, some families have greater abilities to get their kids to and from school. We know that this impacts attendance. And if there's one thing that everyone can agree on about education, if students are not in school, they cannot learn. So this is where the learning happens. We know we have to get our kids to school, and it supports our community members in being important part of the healthy ecosystem of our working community. So this is really an issue that's impacting both the school community and our local community, is the inability for us to get students to school without these rolling cancellations that we endured last year. So, you know, the levers that we've really can and will continue to put energy into are, of course, working on safe routes to school, and partnerships with external companies, and increasing the pay for bus drivers is the as well as advertising. So there it is, laying everything on the table. Increasing the pay of bus drivers is the final lever that the board has for authorizing, I think, I would say empowering me to staff appropriately. When we have worked with bus drivers in our bus garage, we understand that salary is the #1 factor. And so if the board approves this tonight, you know, Jean Marie is running to the parking garage, maybe with donut holes, to say, hey, here's some new rates of pay. And, you know, we have this referral bonus of $1,000 should you refer another employee. So this is, again, as we talk about staffing, this is an area with our greatest deficiencies and our, you know, our #1 need from our parents and guardians' perspective, as well as from student perspectives. I'll also say that our, you know, rolling cancellations are impacting all groups. We have students whose individualized education plans have transportation on them, and we must honor those. Those are routes that we cannot cancel as a district. So for a number of reasons, this improving our transportation services really is a huge equity issue, and one that impacts our community and larger community. So I think I've shared all of the highlights here. Happy to share more if helpful.
Any board discussion about this side letter right now? Before we take action? And since this is an action item, I'd like to open it up now to public comment, if we have any public comment questions. Not questions, but if you need questions about what this side letter is, that would be good. Fine. It's been a long summer for me.
I would just say, that, first of all, thank you, Jean Marie, for leading this for me, but, I designed this model. So, we spent a lot of time with different permutations of this model. It wasn't just, let's just pay the bus drivers more money. It was looking at our salary schedule, looking at our neighbors' salary schedules, thinking of different ways to bucket our historical and legacy steps in our salary schedules and whatnot. And felt that, as Violet said, this was really the only way. We're really, and we've talked about this before, we were competing against CVU. CVU has a unique approach to how they compensate bus drivers. And the way that our legacy salary schedules work, where you get 1 step per year of service, you have to be up to step 7 by the time you hit the bottom of CVU. Now, you know, when we were doing the union negotiations in the last round, we feel very confident that our full compensation package, including benefits, is extremely competitive, but our base salaries are not. So we felt that the way that we would be able to be competitive in the marketplace would be to follow more of the CBU model as opposed to what our legacy model is. So if anyone has any questions about the details of the model, please ask me and I'll be happy to share the detail and the rationale.
Thanks, Ms. Kim Jarvis, for the record. All right. Anything else? Do I have a motion that the August 1st, 2024 execution of the side letter to the collective bargaining agreement between the school district and the professional support unit of the South Burlington Educators Association by Superintendent Nichols with such side letter relating to compensation for CDL bus drivers is ratified and confirmed in accordance with its terms?
So,
Chris moves, do I have a second?
second,
Tim seconds, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Executive Limitations Policy Monitoring Report 2.6 Emergency Superintendent Succession. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the 2.6 monitoring report prepared by Superintendent Nichols? Yes. Nice short one. Any questions?
just one comment. Everything looked good to me. The only thing I wasn't seeing, and this is something maybe for us for future discussion, as we review the policy, it is focused on sudden loss of superintendent services. But I didn't see here was anything referencing like a long-term absence where she's anticipated, or the superintendent is intended to come back, right? And how that should be handled, if that's sort of built into this.
That's my
But-
understanding,
it-
yeah.
Okay,
So when so the successors are people who would be, the language reads are knowledgeable and prepared to take in the role. So I have been the only person in the district who holds a superintendent's license. And Suzanne Grundling holds one and has been working in a central office. So she is third successor. Also, none of the other principals were interested in the job. I can't understand that. I really do love this job. So she's added here, and of course, Mr. Burke is on medical leave. So the other two folks are Kristen Romick, who's been a successor. She's a member of central office and who's familiar with the interworkings, and Jody Valentine, curriculum director, replacing Alicia Backman, curriculum director. So the idea is that should I need to go for medical leave, which I'm very healthy, even my blood pressure, which Delina asked me about in particular, looking good. So should I need to say a medical leave or for whatever reason, these folks are the successors in the order student.
and by so that was, I guess, just my only comment was, it says until a successor is named, and I interpreted that as sort of like, you're gone for good.
So
But that's not really. what it's
say
saying.
there's an unfortunate accident this evening, the board, of course, would put, that would be charged with filling the vacancy, but the automatic default would be Kristen Romick would be acting, tomorrow morning, whatever.
I'm not loving this conversation.
Yes, as I was trying to make, it got a little dark there.
Any other questions or comments about this monitoring report? All right, then at this time, I'm going to read through our policy and ask the reasonable interpretation, adequate data, and in compliance questions. Executive Limitations Monitoring Report Summary 2.6 Emergency Superintendent Succession. To protect the board from sudden loss of superintendent services, the superintendent shall not permit there to be fewer than 2 other executives sufficiently familiar with board and superintendent issues and processes to enable either or both in combination to take over with reasonable proficiency until a successor is named. Whenever interim leadership is in place, at least every 60 days, the board, in combination with the administrative team, will evaluate the status of the succession plan and discuss the need for a permanent solution. Reasonable interpretation?
Yes,
Yes. Adequate data?
yes,
Yes. In compliance?
yes.
Yes. All right. The 2.6 Emergency Superintendent Succession Policy Monitoring Report is approved. At this time, we have a placeholder for a brief recess. with the board. Would you like a recess?
2 minutes would be fine, thank you.
We're quite ahead of schedule. Do we want 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes,
5 would be fine.
5? All right, the board will take a 5-minute recess and come back at 7:29. Yeah.
On, but
Agenda item 9, reports by the board. Recent or planned community engagement activities. Elaine, would you like to update us on the listening session that is coming up?
The first one, we normally have them on Wednesdays, but we're having it next Thursday,
For 15?
August 15th. At 5:45 in the library.
Okay, and I can make a front porch forum calendar post about that.
Okay, but after this coming week, it will always be in Wednesdays.
Okay. All right, before we move on, I'd love to ask the board if anyone has a proposed article for August for the OP. No,
I have a proposal. Finance committee,
Oh, I thought you were looking.
it could broaden it, to, board engagement, and it could be the Puffing Conversation and Finance Committee.
okay. Are we calling, I thought we were calling those listening sessions because they're going to
There is
be.
no
You're right.
food involved.
I just don't want it to be muddy or
Listening
confusing.
section, yeah.
Okay. Who, would anyone like to volunteer to write that or?
For the finance committee?
Well,
Happy to contribute with.
It sounds like this first pitch of an idea is another opportunity to communicate to our community about the finance committee and its purpose. And the listening sessions, because while those aren't the finance committee, part of the intention of those listening sessions is yet another opportunity for community members to engage with the board. Or be heard. So maybe an article, maybe the more general theme would be, how do you engage your school board, or how do you provide feedback? And then highlighting those two community engagement efforts.
When's the article due? Maybe we have to have it.
I can follow up with specifics, but my understanding was before 5 p.m. on the Thursday. I'm not gonna, I think we would have about 2 weeks, but I can follow up with the exact time, because what I thought last week was not correct.
Okay. I will take it on, and then I'll work with Chris and Elaine to get some information from you guys and do the drafting, so.
Can I augment my initial idea? I also would, like the idea of having it be like a back to school edition and have even of those community engagement pieces, new year, new happenings, and then with the expansion of the back to school, we add the bus driver, piece of, new and improved. Here's really the work we're doing to improve transportations, but really to adequately staff our bus drivers. Just as another way to get that out there. As you know, from an operational standpoint, truly the number one thing that parents and guardians email me about is bus drivers.
So this is really more sort of a potpourri of some topics.
An idea of those three, like back to school happenings,
Okay,
with the
so-
board, yeah, community engagement, listening sessions, and improvements to seek commercial, bus drivers or those who would like to obtain CDLs, who we will pay to train them and pay them during that, duration.
Anyone got that?
I will take it.
Right. So any other recent or planned community engagement activities that we want to highlight or discuss? All right. Agenda item 10, agenda planning, set the agenda for August 21st. Just pulling up my draft right now. Elaine, during our retreat, I think that you highlighted that you'd like for us to review our board code of ethics, code of conduct, conflict of interest policy, is that right?
Don't recall that, but it's okay.
Okay, I thought in our self-assessment survey, we were saying.
Oh, I think so, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm wondering, looking at the August 21st meeting, does this feel, that feels to me like an urgent issue, something that we should just review and take time for? I would imagine it would take 20 minutes. Is that something we'd like to add to the 21st agenda or find a lighter agenda to add that review to? To be clear, review board code of conduct and conflict of interest policies.
I'm just mindful of the time that that meeting ends, so my inclination would be to put it off to the next agenda, only because of timing.
The other thing is we don't have to review this in open session. This is something we could do on our own or one-on-one. Is that? Laura's not here, but if I just email copies of those policies so that they're at the top of your inbox and leave it to you to review and then if you have questions, email me, is that fine?
That
Sure.
sounds reasonable.
Okay. I'll do that. I'd like to add an executive session to the 21st to discuss contract negotiations.
Yes, I was gonna mention that.
Okay. Great. Anything else?
Yeah, just a really quick blurb at some point on the policy spreadsheet. This was something we talked about and I started. So I just want to share that. It only took a couple of minutes,
Add that to discussion.
just a discussion.
What do you want me to like officially call that?
It was our policies tracker spreadsheet for use by the board.
Under board discussion.
Mhm. Anything else? We have the finance committee interviews. We have this interviews warned here under discussion items, but it would just be.
That's
finance
an error,
committee,
yeah.
Because the application is good until.
Yep.
The deadline for the application, just again, I will say, is Friday, August 30th at noon.
Quick question, should we have as guidelines for comment? I know that you often mention always the not using specific names, and should that be a formal part of the guideline so that you don't have to mention it every time? It's just.
Yeah, so what I did following our retreat is the consensus I had is we wanted our guidelines to be the VSBA's model. And so I was hesitant to change it much past that without further discussion with the board. But I would be amenable to adding that to our list of guidelines if everyone else likes that idea. I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other.
What was the question?
Chelsea mentions every time before public comment that people cannot or should not mention specific names or identifiers of specific people or, so I just, should that be a formal part of the guidelines so that it's not just a mention, but is,
Right.
like we have the guidelines for public comment at the top. Should that just be, the thing we said?
And if you're saying it every meeting.
Yeah, well, there's a statement that I read standardly every time because I am trying to be consistent for the community and how I will, as chair, I will run public comment. I see the guidelines as something that the board can sort of memorialize and a future board would have to actively change it to not want it to be there. So, do you think it could be added to a current or would you want it to be its own number so that it's highlighted?
And maybe part of board comment should be respectful, civil, and not.
Identify a specific person. Great, I will make that change. Is everyone happy with that? Great. The deadline, absolutely. Mhm.
Sorry that I have the slide. I just
No, it's great.
wondered if we should add it to the next meeting or if we should take care of it now.
It's great. Okay, we had also talked about in our retreat, doing school tours for board members, legislators and city councilors. I don't know that that really needs to be an agenda plan, but it could be an announcement when we have those ready. And I'm kind of keeping it here as like a parking lot reminder.
I'll share that as part of my superintendent's report on the 21st.
Okay.
I'll make it, do A, I'm gonna do hiring update, B, back to school update, and C, I will have as, school tour update.
That would be great, because I really think it's important for the community to know that we're out and about too.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, anything else? Agenda planning, 21st. Rami, will be there.
You know, maybe the audience.
All right, next is agenda item 11, consent agenda. Approval of minutes, July 10 and July 22nd. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from July 10th and July 22nd? Any questions or changes? All right, the minutes for July 10 and July 22nd have been approved. Leave of absence request.
Yeah, so I noticed there's just an error on this. So the leave of absence request is, for Mary Ellen Schaefer to take a 0.51 FTE leave of absence as English teacher at the high school. So I just will have the minutes reflect this. And the under hires, we are, having, Mary Ellen as 0.49 acting assistant principal at SBHS. Again, for the minutes, apologies for this error here. And one additional hire of Ivy Bethler filling in for 1 year only leave of absence.
Violet, just a clarification. So we're giving her a formal leave of absence per contract so that she can come back to that position, correct?
Yeah, so the board is the holder of both the teacher, the SBEA and SBAA. The board is releasing Mary Ellen from 0.51 of her SBEA responsibilities. Of that, she'll be retaining 0.40 for her curriculum area supervisor, 0.11 teacher, and then 0.49 FTE acting AP. And it sounds convoluted. It's the best support plan to, you know, ensure that the work is continued and our staff and students and are supported. So that's great.
Thank you. All right, approval of AP orders, 1020, 1030, and 1088. Has everyone had a chance to review the AP orders?
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
No. The AP orders of 1020, 1030, and 1088 are approved. Do I have a motion to approve the accounts payable check to Amplify in the amount of $195,759.72?
So moved.
And moves, do I have a second?
Second.
Chris seconds, any discussion? I will just say for the record, this is for curriculum program. Yeah. I'm just remembering I need to follow up with the constituent. That is my discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The accounts payable check to Amplify is approved. Agenda item 12, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the South Burlington School Board?
So moved.
Chris moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tim seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Laura. You're early.
I know.
The regular meeting is adjourned at 7. And board, before you leave, we have a folder that needs to be signed.
Thank you, everyone. That was, feels good to